So one of the things that I want to do with Making a Beautiful Now is to introduce people to some great work that's happening. And I have two friends, Marla Estes and Rob Schlapfer, who are doing some really great work, which you can find at bridging.online. It's about bridging the political divide, which I know some of my viewers may feel is a hopeless proposition and not even perhaps something to be desired. But my feeling is that we need to be able to talk across the ideological spectrum. So they're doing some really great work. And this is a little interview I did with Marla where she describes how she met Rob and the process that they went through of sorting out what they needed to do in order to team up and make this work available to the public. There's going to be some other videos that I'm doing that'll give you more of an introduction to the actual work. But this is more to introduce you to Marla. She was a teacher. She's been a teacher in her own school of the examined life. I've known her for quite some time. And I think she's a brilliant woman, a wise woman, and a person you should keep track of. Here she is, Marla Estes.
I woke up on the morning of November 9th, 2016, thinking that I had to do something about bridging the political divide, which was pretty crazy because up until that point I had been pretty much apolitical, and the side that I identified with, I'd just check off the boxes, whether they be measures or candidates, and just go by the party line, never researching, never thinking, or maybe asking a close friend that I respected. But it really was, without getting too mystical about it, it just felt like a deep calling, just like it's mine to do. And had I known what it would mean, I would have never said yes, because it's been really, really hard in ways that I had no way of knowing. I was kind of like la-di-da. And so at first I didn't know what to do, and I had been teaching a class at SOU called Exploring Right and Wrong Through Film. And I thought, well, there's a lot in there about bridging, but it's so funny. It's almost like looking from this point now backwards. I didn't realize exactly how kind of premonitory, like a premonition that was. Mm-hmm. I had no idea how it would link up, but it really does, about morals and ethics and how we know, even when we have strong moral stands based on wrong information, which is really coming up in all the media bias and fake news, really lots of connections. So I started giving for free a weekend workshops touching on this to like people that I felt were influencers or that would have some way of giving me feedback. And it was a good experience for everyone, but it didn't yield anything. And so I was kind of like, and just looking for ways to go forward, but really not knowing. And then in the January, I read in the Rogue Valley Messenger an ad, an event ad saying somebody's doing these talks called the Weekly Talk, wanting to bridge the divide. And I'm going, well, that's interesting. And it was kind of mysterious. It didn't have a person's name, And so I did a little sleuthing like you do on the internet and got in touch with this person, Rob Schlapfer. And I wasn't able to go to his talks, which were on Saturdays, because mostly I did my teaching on Saturdays, my classes. And so we arranged to meet for coffee, in a month or something. And we just hit it off. And it was like on a lot of different levels. But it's been a real journey, shifting. We started off romantically and that shifted. And so that's been a whole journey of how, if we get back to that word consilience, bringing opposites together, like even shifting the nature of our relationship had its own challenges, right? And yet there was something, and we'd stop and start and kind of, I felt pulled by this bigger vision of this work, and realizing that both of us doing it together was much better than either one of us alone. I would have done something, but I think we represent such polarities. Like he's, the yin and the yang, and I've got some masculine, he's got some feminine, but you've got the male-female thing going. But he's more the intellectual, mental center, really good with facts and data and synthesizing information, and I'm more the psychological, personal, inspirational, I hope. And we started just doing it, looking back and thinking, oh my God, it's like my old therapist used to say, ready, fire, aim. Like, we can't know what's going to work until we start doing it. So I'm really amazed at myself of how I just went for it. And my inner critic got real quiet. It's like I gave myself credit for just being in the front of the room and doing something that was very edgy for me. And what we were feeling like, there's certain people that are attracted to Rob's way of presenting, and certain people that are attracted to my way of presenting. But somehow there's this, like, both we're integrating, and we felt like it was also landing with the audience. Like maybe people who are a little less intellectual, were their, mental centers were a little bit more inspired or provoked in a good way. And opposite for people who are a little bit more mental, maybe they got a little bit more emotional or psychological. So, my sense of, and for people who started coming regularly, that there was some kind of magic happening, I think. There are other ways that we changed each other. He would be more like a debater, and I was afraid of debate. And now I realize, oh no, debate is so important. But in my family, we never debated, we never had arguments, in a good or a bad way. Everything was like, just get along, just fine, don't disagree. And so I've become a lot braver, and he's become, I would say, more psychologically oriented. I think we've really learned from each other, and I've gotten smarter, I think. Like, I've learned how to understand things better and research better and think for myself more. Yeah, I feel much bolder. And it's so funny because there's things that'll happen where somebody will say something, and I'm looking at Rob, and he's like smiling and nodding, and I'm thinking, I know what he thinks about what this person's saying. And then I'll say something to the person like, well, there's another way to look at that. Do you know so-and-so? And not in a challenging way, but I feel like we need to help each other with our blind spots. Me too. I'm just because I'm doing this work doesn't mean like I'm there. It's like a constantly finding my own biases slipping out. It's like, oh yeah, there goes another one. So, and every talk and everything that we did just built another layer of, okay, what worked, what didn't work, things that would make me so nervous that I'd have to really say, Rob, I'm not working for a month. Now it's like, oh yeah, it wasn't pleasant, but it doesn't faze me. Or if it does, I just take a day or two off and do a lot of self-care and then get back on. And he's more sensitive. We don't do his things as edgy as he used to do on his own. And so I really appreciate that about him, that he realizes that my nervous system is different than his. And I think on his side, he's probably more mindful of how things land for people, and the best way to communicate so people can actually understand what we're saying.